All right. It is 7 o'clock on February 16th, 2021, and we are going to open the Committee of Committees meeting. Do roll call, please.
Committee members: Chris Campbell.
Here.
John Talbot.
Here.
William Lutzinger.
Here.
Dina Simpson.
Here.
Jen Christensen.
Here.
Jared Jones.
Here.
President Rick Worm.
Here.
Treasurer Brenda Onabini.
Here.
I, Clerk Sandy Monson here. Public Works Supervisor Brett Fergie.
Here.
Park Supervisor Nathan Hill.
Here.
Audible. Okay. We're still under the rules of the COVID, so everything we do will be a roll call vote for public's awareness.
Moving forward, can we have the capacity to house the state minimum of 25? Do we gotta continue to follow this?
We cannot house 25 in here with the 6-foot social distancing that also has to be maintained. As you can see, we're about at capacity as it stands.
That ain't 6 foot. You better.
Entertain a motion for the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 19th, 2021 Committee of Committees minutes.
Second.
So Jen makes a motion to approve the January 19th, 2021 committee meeting minutes. Jared seconds. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Roll call, please.
Jen,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
William.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously at 7:03. Move on to the reports from the officers. Under me, anybody have any questions on the fuel or water reports?
No.
Not hearing any, we will move on. Sandy,
All I had is the FOIA report that's in the packet.
anybody have any question on the FOIA reports? All right. Brenda?
We have Anthony Raleigh here on Zoom from Edward Jones to give a presentation update on our 457.
Anthony?
Good evening, everyone. So this is interesting. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, perfect. So look forward to being back in person next year for this, but I guess we'll deal with it. So I just have a couple things, a couple topics I wanted to cover. One, I wanted to start and talk about some of the plan highlights and then some of our participation statistics. And of course, I'm not going to give any personal information or numbers or names or anything like that. Everything I'll talk about for privacy is just going to be generic or general. I'm also going to talk a little bit about our record keeper, which is John Hancock, and then just give kind of an overview of them and then how they're doing for us. And then also there's a change that I want to propose, so we can talk about that. Then of course, any questions, I'm happy to answer questions. So, all right, so talking about plan highlights. So one thing is I'm pretty excited to see this. Our total plan assets now are over 300,000. So that's kind of a neat milestone to hit. So what I can, and so part of that is that on average, again, nothing specific, but on average, our participants are contributing over 12% into this plan. The industry average is less than 7%. So I think that's really speaks highly to our participants are using it, and they're using it very well. So that's really good to see. The other part of it that I think is really good about the plan is that we've offered a lot of choices, a lot of options. And the average, like 401k, 457, they offer about 21 options for participants. Our plan offers 144. And that may seem like a lot, like, do we have too many options? Well, I mean, that's what I'm here for, is I help all the participants kind of sort through them and, hey, what are you really looking for? And so that's kind of my role in this, is I help them make sure that we have something that they're interested in and something that's going to help them in the long run. So that's been that's really good too. Okay, comparison of John Hancock and other plans. And so what I did, and part of my responsibility to you as the council is I want to make sure, and also to the participants, is that we're giving them the best platform possible for them to invest their money. And so what I did is a few weeks ago, I took the plan kind of out to bid again, if you will, to see how is John Hancock comparing to other options out there. And so I was very happy to see is that John Hancock, while I'll talk about this in a minute, while they're providing great service, they're also much cheaper than the other options out there that we could use. So I'm very happy about that. So John Hancock doing a great job. They're providing good service. So I talked to Brenda a little bit about this. She's had, great experience working with them, and I've heard that same thing over and over again. So we have a good platform that we're using right now. So as far as the changes that I'd like to make is that there's 2 funds that we have. Nobody's using them right now, so it's not. So, but what I want to change those out with 2 new funds. Nobody's using the old funds, like I said, so it's not like we're pulling the rug out from anybody, but it's offering 2 new funds that I think are really good, that I'd like to take to the participants to see if that would work for some of them. Because 2 funds I've had experience with, they're doing very well. So all I would need from that is I need 2 signatures, one from William, one from Rick. So I don't know if you guys have to vote on that or if I need to bring this back in another way or whatever, but that's the only change I want to make is take out 2 funds and add 2 new ones.
Have we run this past the participants to see what they think of the new funds?
I have not.
I think we should.
Even if nobody's using the other 2?
I'm not talking about taking the 2 out. I'm talking about the 2 they're looking to bring it in. The other 2 I don't care
Well,
about.
it's just more options.
What does
Yeah,
it matter if
issue.
they just bring to the end of the equation? That's
More choices, right? Yeah,
Number 2,
it's up to you. It's just, you guys don't need us for that, right?
Can I double check the ordinance and resolution that adopts our financial policies? And just double check it, but I don't think so either, but I just want to double check.
Sure.
All right, Anthony, if you want to send me what you need signed, there is a voting meeting next week. So either way, I'll either get it signed or get it approved and then signed.
Okay.
Send it to Brenda, she can send it to me. Either way.
I wouldn't think that these changes need to come before either.
I don't think so either, but I just want to double check and see what the policy says when we adopted it.
So you
That's
want
kind of my point was that this really isn't us, it's them.
That's true, but if they're not using it, I mean, if they're not using it too, they should be happy that they have a better choice. So out of 144, you're going to swap out 2 and bring in 2 new ones to have 144?
That's right.
Oh, that's a lot of choices. That's great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Other than that, I'm still, I offer this once a year to meet with all the participants. So we'll call them, do a portfolio review, all of that good stuff. And then I'll usually keep them updated throughout the year. Like we touch base with everybody, last year when the market, really took a dive just to see how people were doing and see if we need to make any changes. So we stay in touch with the participants that way. And that's all I had. Any questions out there about the plan or anything?
For me.
Well, I appreciate working with you guys. So look forward to seeing you back in person next year when we do this again.
Thanks, Anthony.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great evening.
You
All
too.
right, bye.
Anything further, Brenda?
No, nothing.
Do we have an attorney?
No. That's on
Well, I
there
just
from-
looked at Zoom to see.
Nope, that's on there from last month.
Move on to the committees and Jen.
How do you guys feel with me doing the Easter thing as a drive-through?
I think that's fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know. That's all I have.
You don't think they're gonna change anything, do you? Me neither, so.
I was gonna say,
I'm fine with it.
I need to figure it out so I can start
Right,
with stuff.
and I'm
so.
sure they won't be changing anything until after summer, so
Right.
I'm fine with it.
William?
Oh, have you decided on a date or anything?
No, I have not.
Okay, just let us know so we can get the fire station reserved. And advertise.
And let us know if you need any help.
That's all I have, Rick.
All right, William?
I don't have anything, I believe.
Jared?
I have a little bit of rough draft for the ATVs, golf carts and dirt bikes and UTVs.
Can you speak forward? I don't think it
Yes.
goes through the system. There you go.
So what I have so far is anybody that has an ATV, UTV, golf cart, or ATV has to have full coverage insurance. Get a registration fee from the village for $100. Anybody that under the age of 16 has got to be accompanied with a parent. Anybody that's over 16 and over must have proof of a license, driver's license, and we will take a copy of that. Must have a helmet at all times. Must have the proper turn signals and headlights. Let's see here. And what I have for violations, first violation would be a written letter or a letter sent out to them. Second violation would be double the registration fee, so that'd be $200. Third violation would be another $200 and lose your registration for a physical year. Have a safety inspection checked, a four-wheeler, and we could do that at Twisty Cycles in Stone Valley for about $20-30 that they'd have to pay. And that's about all I have so far. No horseplay in the village. Must obey the traffic signs. And we'll have to make a little, maybe 1x1, 2x1 with numbers on there. So if we do see someone horseplaying or whatever, we can call the village, check on the number, send them a letter, or whatever we have to do. Is there anything else you guys would like to have on there?
So you mean like a number on the actual?
Like a
utility
plate?
vehicle?
Yeah, kind of like a plate, so we would know
Yeah.
what number to call in,
I kind of like that.
which we could get them plates for probably a couple bucks. And we can put the numbers on them.
And they would get that at registration after the safety check?
What?
And they would get that with registration after their safety
Yes.
check? Okay.
And they got to show proof of full coverage insurance.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Where does my handicap scooter fit in on this? Does that have to be licensed then?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned, people 16 and under need to be accompanied by an adult.
Yes.
I don't think anybody under 16 should be driving on the street.
I don't know who's talking, but I can't hear him at all.
I said. He mentioned that people 16 and under need to be accompanied by an adult while they drive,
He said parent.
by a parent or adult. I don't think anybody under 16 should be driving.
Well,
And
anything under, on dirt bikes, 50 cc, from 80 cc's to 50, or 50 cc's to 80 cc's is under 16.
Are you allowing dirt bikes?
What?
yeah,
I mean, if we're gonna allow four-wheelers, we got it, you know, if we want golf carts. Yeah,
Oh, I
we gotta
know.
allow
I'm not
everything.
I'm not in favor of ATVs. It's either golf carts and like razors. I've already witnessed the four-wheelers tearing up the streets and ripping up and down with no regard to safety or anything else.
Well, that's why I asked, helmets must be 100% and obey the stop signs. Well, no, you don't have to have a helmet on a golf cart. Understand that.
You're basically,
dirt bike or
you're basically in
ATV.
favor of UTVs, golf carts, skaters.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the dirt bikes or the ATV, the four-wheelers,
Well,
passenger rider.
then I don't want golf
These are
carts.
harness.
Well, again, so that's something, that as he puts this together, we're gonna have to go through the discussion.
All of that comes back to the enforcement issue.
Right.
Yep, you can't enforce it. We can't enforce it now. So we want to make it legal, but we put rules with it. But if we couldn't enforce it then, regardless of what the rules are, we can't
Exactly.
enforce this now.
I've
And-
argued for probably 6 years to get a golf cart ordinance passed in this village, and I was shot down every time.
And you're not going to put turn signals and lights on a four-wheeler.
Some of
They
them
don't-
already have them.
Yeah,
But if you don't,
Yep.
yep,
on a four, I've
Bigger
never
one.
seen one.
yep.
You've never seen that?
On an
I've
old
only been
used
on
one,
motorcycles.
mine doesn't have. that.
And you can go on Amazon and buy the little kit for the turn signals for like $20 for any kind of ATV, anything like
But those are gonna be the people that are gonna ride now, but it's not gonna be I agree with William. How you can't enforce it. Any way you look at it, you can't enforce it. So you can have all the nice shiny rules you want. Ogle County is not required to help us, nor do I think they should have to be up here
That's
anyway.
why I want to have a
But isn't what
registration
he's
plate on there
saying,
with
if
numbers.
You have the number on the ATV. and like if the
Exactly.
But if-
ATV was horsing
But
around and
that's
somebody,
irrelevant for the people who do not register.
Right.
There's no way to enforce.
They're
it.
still gonna go out and ride it.
You have no
legally.
way to
We can't
enforce
but you're
it.
gonna
any of
have
this.
some that do, like you are gonna have some that actually follow the rules.
There would be a whole bunch of people that would do that, that would,
I think there are a
Get
lot
it,
that would
yes.
probably do
Oh, yeah.
it. Not
There would-
everybody agrees.
and that's money, that's revenue.
I think the whole board understands it. It's not the majority of the people that own these things that are acting out around the village. It's the minority that makes everybody else look bad that owns them.
And there would be a whole bunch of people that would pay the registration fee to be able to. And that would be revenue. I mean, why wouldn't we want the revenue?
But Jared, no offense to ordinance enforcement, but we're not enforcing the ordinance that's on books today for four-wheelers. That'd be your department. So how are you going to enforce it any different? How are you going to enforce it any different? They decide not to pay a $200 fine. We can't spend $300, $400, $500, $600 on an attorney to connect the $200 fine. And now you're going to have all these honest people that are going to come forward to ride. You're going to have more people riding in the street.
So it's just like people I don't mow their lawn and I give them a fine, they don't have to pay it, huh?
Most people, well, you can't enforce it.
Lawn mowing is different because I can lean.
You can lean,
I
you can't
can't lean
lean on a
ATVs.
four-wheeler. That'd be like the fence. You couldn't lean, you can't go after they're turning off their water because they don't pay a four-wheel fee. That could sit in limbo forever and cost you more than the fine was worth. All I'm simply saying is I didn't ever had any luck enforcing the four-wheeler ordinance, and I've been sitting around, I've been here for quite a few years now. It's just not, I don't know how you're going to enforce it. If you could come up and somehow convince me how you would enforce this, I could maybe go on board, but where it stands right now, I'm out. I mean, I don't even have to think about this. You can't enforce it.
I think I think the one thing that we determined is that there already are people who are ruining it for
Everyone.
those that want this. And that's always been the argument. I've been on the board almost nearly as long as John, and we've had this conversation every year for probably 10 years.
Yes.
I even tried to initiate this change and it failed. But if we can mold the ordinance correctly, I could potentially be on board and in favor with it because overall society will comply and overall many people will be good Samaritans, good citizens. There's going to be a handful, and my only fear is that when we do open it up, that the group that is currently, I don't want to use the word terrorizing, but the group that is non-compliant and doesn't give a damn about our policies or ordinances is going to grow, and there'll be more of them, and that's my fear.
When they use the argument, I've lived here all my life,
I don't.
That has no,
that has no bearing on anything.
like Jared, I'm all on board for different things, but just show me how we're going to enforce it.
I have another question.
That's all I'm asking.
Go ahead, Glenda.
You said that they need a safety check. You mentioned it was Stillman Valley. How are they going to get their property to Stillman Valley if they don't have a trailer? Wouldn't you be better off having them safety check here in Davis Junction?
Who's going to do it?
Well, if we get the ordinance passed, then yeah, where are we gonna have the safety check at? Village Hall?
Well, who's gonna do it?
Twisty Cycle would.
Oh, he'd come here to do it for $20?
Well, that leads into a bigger can of worms. What is he certified in, and why are we steering business to one particular business? That's not.
Right, you could just give them a sheet and say, have a safety
If
inspection
there's
done by a
if
qualified.
there's a
Yeah.
Checklist of things that can be accomplished. then
They could go anywhere and
they
do
can go
it.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know, but I hope nobody buys an ATV or a golf cart or anything else to ride around the village as their sole intent. If they're not buying it for some recreational part, you have one for that?
I did.
You should be
I kept it
ashamed
for
of
years,
yourself.
Waiting for the village to pass it.
The golf
I got rid
cart.
of it.
Jody still has his?
You shouldn't buy one just to ride around the village if it, oh, I was gonna say.
But then I
you know,
kept waiting.
If you got an ATV and you're taking it out to the trails, well, then you can get it somewhere place to get it inspected. I'm not advocating for any of it. I don't like ATVs riding around. I'm waiting for somebody to get hurt. And when somebody gets hurt,
It's all over with then.
then people will take it seriously. The sheriff's department or whomever else will take it seriously. And it's bound to happen because there are a lot of kids out in the summertime and there are people riding, and I'm not saying that it'll even be, them horsing around. Maybe it just, they didn't see somebody and they run over them.
Well, who was it the other night? Somebody posted something the other night that they came around a corner, somebody was riding on an ATV on the street. No lights, no reflective gear.
And that's why I lean more towards the golf cart because it's slow, and the UTV because they have at least restrained and they're caged. So even if they do get hit, right, they're protected. I'm not in favor of the four-wheelers and the dirt bikes and all that.
Well, I'm not gonna do it unless we can, allow four-wheelers and dirt bikes.
UTVs.
Because if you do golf carts and UTVs, you've gotta allow the other off-road vehicles too. So,
I would
Well,
disagree.
the whole point of this is to put it together. You bring it to the
Yeah.
board. The board will discuss on what they want to see in it.
well, I pretty much got a majority vote right now. I got John, I got William, and Chris doesn't want.
Oh, you mean
UTVs,
against it?
so.
I didn't say I was,
What?
But the whole point is you have to work with the other members of the board, and the board will craft something together out of what you start with. I mean, you're coming up with a start. That's what it is. They'll come up with a start. William's gonna have input, John's gonna have input, Dina and Jen will have input, Chris. And you guys will come up to what is going to be the ordinance or not.
The compromise.
Right. And then that is what will get passed. It's not William's way. It's not
I'm sorry, how
Jared's
long are you
way.
trying to get that passed?
since he's been here.
Good Lord, probably 6 years. And then I
Since
finally gave up.
before 2013.
I said before I was on the board, I know that,
It was before
Oof.
2013.
before I was on the board.
Only thing I would have just come up with how we would enforce it. Because we can't enforce the one we have now. How is writing something allowing everyone to do it if you follow these rules? How do you enforce it?
But I also, to take
That's
that,
my
I
only
agree with
question.
William, though. You do we can register the vehicles for the people that will follow the rules so that we could have those vehicles working around the village. I have no problem with that. It's just whatever we come up with as a group to, it's no more, you're absolutely right. It's no more enforceable than what we have now. But you will have people that will follow the rules, that will do what they need to do so they can use them.
True, but they'll be the same people to say, well, how come I follow the rules and they don't have to?
Same reason why you do when you drive through the village and stop at a stop
I
sign.
say,
Yeah.
welcome to the world.
And see how
Yeah.
frustrating that is, so.
I mean, if you want to blow them, feel free, but I'm not.
no.
The one time I do, somebody will T-bone me and that'll be it.
You design it for the majority of those that will follow, and then
Most
you
people
do the very
respect the
best
law.
you can to figure out what the
Most of the time.
compromise
I'd
is.
ride
I
mine.
don't know, and even when I did own my golf cart, you can't get quote unquote full coverage.
Mm-mm.
You can't get.
Is it
you can't
just-
get insurance
Is it
on
just
it.
liability?
Is it covered under your homeowners?
It goes on your homeowner.
Yeah.
insurance.
No, is it?
I was gonna say, I know, like, because we also have one, and we tried to take it when we go camping to other campgrounds, and they want proof of insurance. And our insurance agent telling them they are covered for anything they drive was not good enough. We were not allowed to take it to the campground.
Because I have insurance on my four-wheeler, my snowmobiles. I have insurance on all of them.
But is it all through your homeowners or is it separate policies?
Separate policy.
Is it liability? So if
Full.
you get a car, you're paying that.
It's
car
full.
Or a person? Hey,
person.
yeah, well, we don't care if you
75
get your
bucks a month.
four-wheeler paid for.
75 bucks a year.
Full coverage may be the wrong word to
Yeah.
use, but,
It's probably just-
Insured.
but I know what it's insured. Because full coverage, we think of a car, whether we're at fault or not at fault, it's covered. I think on something like that, it's,
To the
I would
point where you
assume
take-
there's some cap limits on what they're willing to pay for operator
I
mistake.
know my vehicles, my golf cart, my tractor, it's all a rider. I'm a
Yeah.
homeowner.
Mhm.
You can't buy a liability policy on an automobile. The rider at home.
And then the only other question, not to be a stick in the mud, is legally, I would like to know what Ansel's Glink's thoughts would be on the village's liability. We allow this to happen and tragically someone dies as a result of the fact that the village is, I know that, but what I'm saying is there's always some risk involved with doing something like this, and I don't want to spend a ton of money on to
It
find
seems,
that
it
answer.
seems to be the direction all the communities in Ogle County are moving for some reason.
I have a question. So we know that the state of Illinois, you can't legally drive a four-wheeler down this, like 72, correct? The state highway.
There's
You
exceptions.
can, not in this area.
Yeah.
Southern Illinois, like pretty much south of 80, you can drive UTV and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's my next question was people who have like the Polaris, those are the UTVs you're talking about, right?
Mhm.
Side by sides.
Yes.
Like, okay,
Restrained side by side, the roll cage.
right, like,
Call 'em the
you know,
big gators.
well, that's what I'm saying, because people, like, they have like four-door ones
Mhm.
and stuff like that. People are driving them down the road. Are
On a
those,
state highway? Really?
Not in here, not around.
No, I just
No,
find it,
not around here.
it's hard to believe that the state would allow that period on their state road.
I read it recently.
And I think the more rural they are, the more it is.
well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, I
I've
get
seen
rural
people
roads,
driving.
state
down-
roads I don't.
State rural.
Yeah. It's like if you get down probably by Mendota and all that, this, I bet you, I don't know for a fact, but I would be willing to bet.
Or that could be just officer discretion too. It's probably more
Pretty
discretion.
sure the Illinois Vehicle Code states what you have to have a motorized vehicle on the road. And I don't know if they can make it, maybe they can. I have no idea.
I mean, the hardest thing with enforcers would be the people that wouldn't register. That would be the hardest thing.
But I guarantee that if a state trooper here on 72 sees you flying down the road on a quad, they're gonna pull you. Well, assuming they could catch you, they may not even bother because they know that you just have to cut off road and they're.
Well, that's what I was trying to say was I've seen people driving the quads, the whatever the things down the road. That's why I'm asking if that's legal or if it's not legal, because I don't have one. I've never been in one. I don't know how that
The
works.
law in Illinois used to be that you, on roads, they weren't allowed on roads, at least up, like William said, up here. And on your own property, you couldn't ride them unless you owned over 5 acres.
That's the Davis.
But-
I believe that's state of Illinois.
Yeah.
They're registered with the state of Illinois because you get a sticker. So I mean, actually, the registration process for a legally purchased quad with title gets a sticker from the state.
Well, yeah, if
Not
you're
right
in,
on the street
not to ride on the street, but like an ATV park or anything like that.
trails.
Or a trail.
Or, yeah, or a trail. There is
Oh,
spots
sorry.
and.
Thank you.
No, but I mean, if you go
got
buy a new
trails
one, you
and
get
stuff.
some certificate of title that shows that you own that.
Yeah.
Right, but very similar to snowmobiles. You go
Yeah.
out and check people's registration stickers. You'll find a lot of them are expired.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not something that's enforced, but I mean, you don't necessarily, Jared, have to reinvent how we register them, because I'm sure the state would have to, 'cause if you go spend $10,000 on a side-by-side, you're gonna get some sort of, well, if I buy it from you, I'm gonna want proof that you owned it before you sold it to me. There has to be some titling system that goes on with all of that stuff.
But you're talking about registering with the village, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
But just showing, Dina, just showing proof that you've registered it with the state at time of purchase is all then you can create your number from there. But I mean, who owns it at that point? That's already been created. All you're doing is gonna reference, you know what I mean? That would, just
That-
like the dog tags. We put a number on a dog tag, so we kind of know what it is, because that whole scanning system or giving them the number never really worked very well.
Mhm.
So similar process. You don't really have to invent that part of it, because anybody spending that kind of money, I would think you would have some sort of proof of title. Whether it's an OHV or an ORV, whatever they call it, sticker. You got to get something when you buy an off-road vehicle. You just don't go into Kawasaki and buy it. Oh, here you go. I mean,
You have
So
a
that
ti-
part's
You have a
done.
title
Well,
for your
yeah, you get
tractor?
a title. I mean, when you buy it, but.
Do
I
you have a
mean,
title for your tractor?
No.
you have to prove a purchase.
A
of
John
anything.
Deere tractor, is that what you?
No, he's got-
Sorry,
Not a residential one.
Yeah. you got a big one?
Physical, like motor vehicle title?
Yeah.
They
So I
do-
don't, mine, I don't have one for mine either. There's no
They do
title.
on the newer ones. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, Brenda and I started getting titles on them.
Really?
What they cost, I mean,
On what's up, what size?
I'll have to look, but I think even our John Deere Gators have titles.
What horse is yours?
I'll have to look. Yeah,
William,
newer
what
one.
horsepower is your tractor?
Yeah, I think
Because I mean, I think ours is 50 horse and it's, there's no titles with them at all.
Yeah, I'd have to look, but I do know that we title the majority of our machinery that can go on or near a roadway is now we receive titles for. I want to say the change was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I do know from, on a side note, I do know from selling my son's four-wheeler that Illinois also titles them as well, but Wisconsin does not.
And Wisconsin doesn't do trailers either.
No, so if you buy it in Wisconsin, you have no proof of purchase, you have no registration.
You have to make sure the VIN is legible on the trailer to be able to register it in Illinois, because Illinois stopped doing homemade trailers too.
I just Googled that real quick. The state of Illinois does restrict the driving of these on the roadways unless the municipality has an ordinance that allows it. So in those communities where you're, well, we don't know, but that's actually where it works in reverse, if you ask me. And that they do, it does say also that most legit purchases, you apply with the state of Illinois for what's called a off-highway vehicle or AHV decal. And then they have specific restrictions on where it's displayed. And so the registration process is, in a sense, handled by the state.
Did Ogle County pass theirs legalizing them?
Not yet, but they really don't do nothing as long as you're not driving like an idiot.
Must be the sheriff's interpretation.
New standards.
I get on the agenda in 2 weeks and Jared could then have the opportunity to give me everything that he's proposing in writing.
Because then people have a chance to review it, see what they'd like to change and.
Personally, I would wait till we have a document review. We talk to them, we have a document that we're.
Well,
So
that's, but if he's got an outline, we can all go through the outline and start working on where we want to be with it.
by the time you get a documentary review, it's been in Ansel Blink's hands. And so it's easier for me working with them if you guys narrow down exactly what it is you want. So I can just take Jared's sheet and forward.
So can you take your outline, send it to her? We'll get it together as an outline and start working towards through it that way.
Yeah, I can get an outline to her.
That's
And then we'll put it on the agenda in 2 weeks.
how we'll move forward.
So we'll just add what we would like to see
And
then.
then everybody can
Add,
have it,
subtract.
and then, you know, we can discuss it and see where we'll be and what you'd like to add and not add.
Clarify language, whatever you choose.
Am I only one that feels we should maybe see what Ansel Glink thinks from a liability? I mean, I understand we're protected, but at the same time, there's always risk involved. I mean, we,
I think we did that before we passed it.
just to
Definitely.
Oh,
see,
definitely. Ansel Blink would have to put the ordinance together because you're talking an overhaul of a section of an entire. section.
because I mean, David has always said their job is to first and foremost protect us. So I mean, maybe the question, not to stymie anything, but if ultimately in the end, their recommendation was to be not to move forward this, wouldn't we want that now? Just as a quick, you know, give us a quick, what do you think? No rewriting it versus put all this work together and spend a little money to get here for them to have a recommendation that may say, as fun as this sounds, we don't recommend you take this sort of risk. It's no different than we went from allowing people to ride in our village vehicles that didn't work for us to an insurance recommendation that said, if you don't work for the village, I don't know if it's because the coverage doesn't extend or what the specific issues were, but we were taking less risk by removing them from riding from the vehicles. This, not to stymie the idea, but this could be a similar situation that the village could have some sort of just naturally assumed risk or things that could happen from we all know we can pay out money if we're wrong. We know
I'm
it
sure
works.
we'll have David here at one of our meetings.
So maybe-
So-
I'll call the insurance, I'll call
Yeah,
my
you-
person at the
yeah,
insurance.
yeah, that would even be
company.
another angle to see what they think, because you're gonna have to carry some sort of insurance, I would assume, because you're allowing something different, no different than
Yeah,
we
you
allow
gotta
people
have
to start
insurance
swimming.
on your snowmobile if you want to get registered with the state of Illinois.
David will be here in 3 weeks.
So somebody remind me, we'll bring.
You had to have insurance on
So
it.
let's proceed with the way we wanted to otherwise, and we'll
Yeah, I'll
talk to
just get
David when
this
he's already
typed
here.
up. I'll send it to her and then we can all discuss it and go through and we'll
Yep.
take notes, what we want to do, how we want to do it. and
2 weeks will be
if
our
you guys
first.
don't Support it, then I guess
You know, because
I
I
tried.
kind of, not to ramble on, generally, don't do that. But, you know, when we had the issue with the skateboarders skateboarding over everything and anything within the village, we came together and we put in a skate park, which didn't necessarily take away all the problems, but it took away a good share of them because we gave them the opportunity to ride somewhere. So I'm not, once again, not suggesting we have a four-wheeler park by any means, but
I hope
different
not.
way to,
That
different way to
insurance
still.
liability would be
Yeah.
huge.
Well, at one point, actually, at one
It's
point in
either way.
time, the DNR had grants for creating off-highway parks.
You know, it's certainly something that, well, like I said, we tried the ice rink. It didn't necessarily, but that would be more of an investment and probably more of a liability issue. But even with the ice rink, there was insurance questions, there were legal questions. So I just like to maybe put the horse with the cart rather than put the cart ahead of the horse.
When Brenda asked the.
Yeah, that will give us some direction.
Well, and they also have attorneys who work for them as well, and so that'll give us a guideline. As I said, at some point, if the board chooses to move forward, Ansel Blink will get their hands on this anyway and give us their thoughts and opinions on the direction we're giving them. So maybe asking the insurance company for now is the.
Kind of give us a way to.
And we'll hit David up in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Otherwise, next week, first go around through the mess and see what we come up with.
All right, that'll work. I'll get my outline printed and give it to everybody next week.
Ex-
You could email it to me. I'll just stick it in the board packets for the following week, because it's actually 2 weeks to a committee meeting.
All right, that'll work.
Gives you more time.
Yep.
Anything further, Jared?
Nope, that's it.
John?
Nate had, and Sandy had, we had the little jump sticks for everybody to look at for the RFQs. I'm not quite sure Nate received too many responses back, but, Nate, you kind of want to go over what you have and maybe some guidance and direction on how we'd like to move forward?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So myself, John, and Chris all evaluated the 10 proposals that we received, ranked them, and basically I just combined the rankings, and Fairgram was the top number getter, followed by Hitchcock and Willett Hoffman, and then IMEG was a close, very close third. So I think we're supposed to pick, the top two and engage the one or two and see what their proposal is. And if they're not able to, we can go to the next one, that sort of thing. So my recommendation based on the evaluations provided would be to go with Fairgram to do the preliminary pond and park modification design work, phase 3 or whatever you want to call it.
And if I could just add on to that, I mean, for a lot of us, and HLP is actually one of the other.
Talk closer to your microphone.
HLP is also working with Fairgram. For those of you who don't remember HLP, they were the company that came in and did our comprehensive plan.
Hazel Levine.
You remember John Housel, of course. John Housel and Devin, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but we worked very well with them, and they've done a lot of, economic development stuff and made things look Naperville, the 59 corridor. I mean, they've done a lot of that sort of stuff. They're kind of maybe the more Fairgram would be the design side of things, whereas they're maybe the more make it, look modernization, if you will. I mean.
Yeah,
stuff
and
like that. So-
also Larson and Darby is on there as well. So there's a.
Yep, there's a lot of good combinations there, so. And the city of Rockford's worked well with Fairgram. I mean, I'm just kind of going over what my decisions were and how I rated it, but Fairgram's been around. They've worked with the city of Rockford, other larger communities, HLP. We worked very well with HLP, and I think we all in the end, except for maybe one copy paste incident, we're pretty happy with their overall comprehensive planning that they did for us. So that's how I kind of got there on my point system. It was close.
Just out of curiosity. Sorry, out of curiosity, do you know how much we want to spend for the engineering plans for them?
I don't know that we had a specific number, did we, Nate?
Based on some preliminary information left from me by Kenny, when he had looked into this, it was in the range of 150 was one of the, so I put that in the budget for this year, but we won't know until we actually approach them and ask for that to know what they're gonna charge. So, but I'm estimating in that range to do the full scope of the full scope and suite of things that we had talked about designing and engineering them.
Is that the board's plan to do the full scope or just the renovation of the pond?
Well, I believe if you read through them like I did, I mean, the companies, I mean, I believe all these are staged. It's gonna all be staged, maybe, like I say, just
Pieces.
the same way, if you will, like kind of way we break down the roads, you know, we do them.
Like phase one.
I mean, obviously, yeah, you're gonna have to prioritize there, and Chris, to ride on your tail there, the pond obviously would be on the top of the priority.
Yeah, that would be the first thing that would be done, but the goal here was to kind of have a phased plan of all of the improvements, and then like a menu, we can pick what we want to do. Obviously, the pond is the linchpin. Without doing that, we can't do much else. So that's the first and foremost. Once we get that aligned, adding a fourth diamond, doing other things, and adding, we have to, if we add a fourth diamond, then we have to move paths and those types of things. So the goal is work with Fergram or work with the engineering firm, pond priority, but then what pieces fit in after that and phase it and get budgets and monies for that so we can budget for it in the future coming years or whatever.
The pond is a priority, whether the overall concept. of the
Speak up,
park-
William.
What microphone number are you?
The microphone's on.
What microphone number is on there?
14. And I'm 4 inches from the microphone.
Get 3
Well, I can't hear you at all.
The concept of the pond was that it needs to be repaired. We all know that. But the intention of the overall park concept is depending on negotiations with the landfill and funding. If the
Well-
original plan, if that all came to fruition, then they were gonna make a proposal to fix everything in the park.
I understand that.
But,
Well, here's my question for you.
It would be a phase.
It would definitely have to be a phase with the reduction of landfill,
Right.
tipping fees coming in and
Right.
some other
Right, and this
financial
is
strategies.
my question for you. I still haven't, are you gonna send out those numbers? I mean, you let me see it that one day, but I'd actually like to see the entire thing, so, all
Waiting for the budget process.
right.
Hopefully, we have another meeting for the budget on Friday, so we will have hopefully something rough in the next week or two after that.
Well, it shouldn't really have as much to do with your predictions of what we're gonna have for this year. We should basically know,
Does.
do we not already know,
What?
what we've gotten so far and what we have to left to go to the end of the fiscal year?
Oh, that's.
For revenues,
that's
for,
in-
not expenses, for
that's in Your
revenues.
treasurer's report? It was in last week's packet?
The actual
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah, it's in your treasurer's report. There's at a glance in there that'll show you all the breakdown with the actual, the budgeted, and the difference between them. For
All right.
revenues and
All right.
expenditures.
And so we are supposed to get one more payment for this fiscal year?
On
But
your
look at the
treasurer's report, the check did not make it by the end of January, so it's gonna be on the February, that amount. So whatever you look at, we'll have 2 checks.
And that'll be the next treasurer's report?
The next treasurer report will reflect the one we just got February 1st.
The
Which should have been
last
Jan-
report was in your packet, which was
Last
Last
week.
week.
Last week.
last week showed $1 million deficit revenue to expense, but it did not reflect the check we received.
Right.
Right,
Which
And
So-
then-
did
so,
not,
right.
still did not bring us to a positive balance.
right. I didn't expect that it would make up $1 million.
No.
That's not what I'm saying. So you would expect one more check before the end of the fiscal year, right? Because
Yes.
February, March, April, May.
Yes.
All right.
But like you
Yes,
said, the
dated
next
by
one will
April
reflect.
30th.
I know, but, and I was wondering if we could project that so we could see what the deficit was for this year so
Well-
that we can,
We could try to project it, but it's kind of off on the last
I
couple.
do not anticipate it putting us into a negative fiscal.
No, I don't think
You're
so
right.
either.
I still think we will, because of our frugal spending, even though we have still spent within our budget, but when the check does come in, I still think we will have a positive ending balance.
Yes, I
Just
think
won't
so.
be nowhere near
What we want.
what we
What we're
used
used to.
to. We'll still come out with balance, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't have to actually pull from the quote unquote reserves from the water tower project.
Right.
We anticipate pulling from capital.
So you expect that it might cover that too?
I'm hoping, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm more interested in the next fiscal year and what the
I know,
projections
yes,
will be
I
for
know.
that. You know, but the way
I mean-
to tell is by looking at what happens this year and then projecting to the
And
next
I
year.
showed you that trend.
And we
Right,
know
but it's hard
why.
to, you know, it's hard without having it in front of me to really analyze it.
We know the majority of the reason why they lost that amount of money, the tipping fees, because one of their biggest clients, they lost the contract because they bought their own landfill. So that all that volume went to
Somewhere else.
their own landfill rather than coming to here. And then I believe they've actually said they're going to start looking at bringing in, they're actually going to eliminate some of the waste streams for the stuff that creates odor.
But either way, I think we'll work any way we can on the budget reductions or whatever, so Parks is complete.
Just for clarification, Community Park was built in 3 phases, phases 1, 2, and 3. So I don't know if you want to continue with phases, Nate, in 4, 5, and 6, or give it a new name, but we already do have Community Park Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3, because it was also.
No, my thing was also, I don't want to spend $150,000 for a total thing, total engineering, re-engineering of the park if in the end, we're not going to be doing the total. But if we're going to end up having to fix the pond, then I'd like to start with that phase. And we should kind of know how much it's going to cost so you can negotiate a contract that is a fair contract for the work they're doing.
I know what you're saying now. There's no reason to re-engineer the entire park if we're not gonna do the work.
Yes.
So
That's why it's in
you
phase.
can't do, so the concept of re-engineering the pond was also reshaping it.
Yes.
To accommodate readjusting the park to fix some of the.
And possibly at a 4th time. And I was right.
So, I mean, I guess Nate can work through the engineers with that maybe. If we're not gonna redo the park, there's no reason to reshape the pond. So-
The only thing with the pond
Well-
we need to do is still is to be able to handle the water runoff better and the depth of it with all the algae growth.
I'm not so sure that your theory is correct, only because you might someday in the future still do. So maybe reshaping it if it's not an extreme expense, extra expense to reshape it.
And that's
And
something
you-
you can have your engineers toss. around,
Right,
yeah, what that
absolutely.
is.
Yes. But I would be in favor of spending the money to re-engineering the pond, but not the entire thing until we know where that's going.
Because someday.
Not
I
to say
would-
that you shouldn't get an estimate and have a plan to follow through with. I'm not saying that at all. We should, but to make a commitment just to the first
You're
phase.
talking about having a preliminary plan, not necessarily full-blown engineering.
Yeah,
Because-
and I'll speak up here. I kind of on the same page, Chris. I think that, our approach with the firm would be, give us the concept plan, general costs for these amenities, but specifically give us the full engineering, ready to go design for redoing the pond, because that is the linchpin. And then you take that to the landfill for negotiation. Here's show them the pretty pictures. Here's what we want to do. Here's how much it's going to cost. It's chicken, egg, cart, horse, whatever. I really think, in order to go to them and negotiate, if we have a good plan with numbers that are reasonable, solid, and so that was kind of my thought was, get the big concept plan, get the pretty picture, get some ideas of what we want to do, but specifically get engineering on that pond, because that's, again, the biggest concern of the board, as well as the biggest project that would affect the rest of the design. So if that doesn't happen, then nothing else would happen.
I mean, this is exactly why I lobbied years ago to include the park in the TIF district. We use the TIF money, but the board did not do the.
Sorry, I wasn't here for that.
There were a few of us advocating. We tried to include this whole side of town basically so that we could use TIF monies to help the property owners bring up properties if they had projects to do.
Sounds like a good plan, Nate. Thanks.
But they had somebody going door to door telling them
They did. They had somebody going door to door telling them we were trying to take their land.
in their Bibles.
Moving on.
Moving on. Are we done?
I'm Nate, do you have anything else to add? Thank you, by the way.
I'm great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Nate.
Can Nate make a little blurb about baseball?
Oh, yes, I forgot. We are registration is now open for Meridian Youth Baseball and T-ball, softball. So we've already had 25, 30 registrants.
In person or remote?
We're gonna do it by Zoom.
I couldn't resist.
It's gonna be Wii baseball.
We baseball.
Davis Johnson,
There's guidance put out last August for baseball, softball. It's a low risk sport. Really, we're just going to provide some simple guidance to the coaches and the players. We have enough space to space everybody out. When they're together, they'll be, they'll wear masks, that sort of thing. But a lot of other park districts, Byron and Oregon, are proceeding as well. And so I'm looking forward to actually going through a season of baseball.
Awesome.
Anything further, John? Chris, we've had rousing discussions so far. Let's gotta keep this going.
We're gonna cut out the ComEd streetlight incentive. We're not even gonna talk about it because we only have our bill for the ones that we actually own are only $120 a month. And even if we save 50%, it would be $60 savings. It's kind of worthless. I thought we had more, and we do have more streetlights. It's just ComEd takes care of what, 89, the large portion of them, and ComEd will change them as I'm sure they go out, which will save us on the energy costs. 30, 40?
Yeah, I think it was 54.
54. But our bill is only, what?
$126.
Yeah.
Those
So-
LED upgrades would be.
So even if you upgraded to the LED lighting, you would
So
only be
when they
saving-
upgrade theirs to the LED lighting, are they going to cut our costs?
They already did up.
Well,
a lot of them
they won't cut our
subdivision.
costs, but our energy consumption will go down. We're paying for
I was
the
gonna say,
electricity.
they've already
I
done.
thought,
a
we,
lot
I
of
thought it
them.
was a set figure.
Where did they upgrade the LED at?
It's
A lot of the lights
figure
are already
for
changed in the
poles, but
subdivision.
They also charge us
You
for
don't see many bright.
Electricity?
the energy too.
Are they? I have to drive around at night. Because I always thought LEDs would be noticeably brighter.
Yeah, they've changed. They don't have that thick globe on them anymore. They're more flatter and they're a lot brighter and they're
They're
not
whiter, I
yellow.
think, yeah.
They're not
They're whiter.
yellow.
They're the white like these, like we
Mhm.
did down here. In the subdivision?
Mhm.
Won't matter because, they're going to change them on the ones that I don't know, how do you say that? Rent from them?
Yeah.
Rent for life.
I don't know. The
Yeah,
89
rent
poles
the
that
pole.
ComEd actually takes care of for us. They'll change them out as they go. So we'll get the LED lighting for free. And the other ones, if you're only going to save, $50, $60, $65 for changing them out, it wouldn't be worth the cost to change them out. I just assume that, we'll just keep going unless they mandatory make LED lighting on street lamps, and then we'll do them as they go.
My question would be, what if we did a beautify through Davis Junction on 72 like we did on Lincoln Street?
Yeah, that's not a bad.
I mean, we need to do something.
Because they didn't put in enough lights. So to me, the cost savings is fantastic for a little bit.
You'd be surprised how many times over
More
the last
bright,
16 years
more
that's
light
come
you
up.
I mean, you could ask them for whatever you want, but this program was strictly for street lighting, and it was on for poles that we would, or not poles, but lights that we would own.
Right.
And they would provide an incentive to change them from regular to LED, so you use less electricity. For big cities, it was,
Right.
But
great, but
There is another advantage than just reductions in costs is you get more light out of an LED, especially if it's 5,000 K or higher. It's going to be a brighter, better light than the 2,300 K that's are in there
I'm
now.
sorry, John, you can't talk me into it being worth enough money for us to change ours out to pay to pay the cost for changing plus the light bulb, even with the incentive.
Hard to believe there's 100 lights.
Is more. If there's
140.
89 and 54 is, yeah.
No, I'm saying the
Well,
cost
because
savings
most
doesn't
of them
justify.
most of them don't give enough light to, or in the right spots to.
Well, and keep in mind too, that includes all the decorative lighting.
Yeah. It's like
Everything coming
50
down.
Park Lincoln
Yeah.
Street.
Right here. Oh, I think Oval Crossing has those.
Just
They have the lower
The
one.
nice ones.
Yeah, Oval Crossing. So the ComEd lights are in Harvest Glen over here, 72.
just to give Jen the history. I know Brenda will remember. She's been here a bit longer than me, and John almost, and William. Is that there's been push of time to time to change the lighting along 72 to more of a designer style lights with,
Well,
where you could hang banners from
well, I
them
mean,
and-
yeah, and.
There was a cost issue involved with that.
Always a cost
I
issue.
There was a
mean-
lot of money for those lights.
Well, right, but most of the ComEd streetlights aren't even straight. They're leaning, they're crooked, it just, I think it just looks,
Now, the poles that we own, which are, if I'm not mistaken, are the ones in the neighborhoods,
Yes.
we can replace those. If that's what
well, no, I'm just thinking I just think it would be great to beautify 72 when people drive through here. It gives, I think it would just look a lot better.
Well, then you got to go with the lights that fit the time of
we'll talk later.
the old railroad town.
Well, that's, and I'm not opposed
Well, I
to,
know, but I'm just saying, you have to start somewhere and make a plan.
I'm not opposed to that. I'm just saying that's not gonna be covered under their incentive program. That's all.
What?
Isn't there black pedestal lights that go down 72?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about 72, but they're over there, right?
In Davis
No,
Park.
those are in Davis.
Those are in Davis Park.
That's
That
all
one
we
little
could
side
afford.
there.
William.
Yeah, because one time we had talked to ComEd about replacing their poles with our poles
It was a lot of money.
and putting on things where you could hang banners, and
But if we,
Nancy used to love that.
if we did put decorative lights up 72, we would put LED lighting in them.
Oh, right,
Yes.
but I'm just saying, think it's time to start looking.
I just said this
living in the
incentive program
past,
to me
looking
isn't
towards the future.
isn't
Oh, I
gonna
don't-
be very much
During the
for us.
street reconstruction project.
I'd be interested to know the cost if somebody wanted to look into it. We spend money
We have
other
them every
places.
year at IML and we look
Yep,
at it
I was
every year
gonna
at
say,
IML.
I
We've
do.
talked about it multiple times.
Mhm.
What was the
They
cost
did
then?
the lights on
Everybody's,
72.
do we remember?
Asked
What was it
us
like?
said We don't want their,
I don't
where
remember.
we're gonna put in our own. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying, like, we do all these street projects that we could look into doing some project of beautifying.
The issue came down to being, we gotta get permission from IDOT, you gotta get in the right of way, and then once we replace them on 72, then we also own them, and we gotta pay the electric now that ComEd's no longer gonna pay for it.
Which wouldn't be that much. The electric wouldn't scare me. It's just the cost of the light.
Maintain them.
How much is the light? Somebody.
Well, it's not just the cost of the light, it's cost of
Putting
the
in those
installation of the
lights.
light.
Yeah, that'd be expensive.
It was expensive.
It was expensive.
That's where we're gonna use their
So
third-party
while they
contractor.
were doing the construction, then they would.
Right.
But if somebody's willing to get figures on it, I'd be more than happy to listen to them.
But I agree with you, the beautification would be great.
Because I don't remember the
So
number.
would sidewalks, but that was $650,000. So no.
Jen, do you want to see what the numbers were? I mean, that could go into community. I mean, it could be something out of your budget or share it with streets and parks, because I'd be interested through that way. Maybe it's, so you'd have 3 different committees we could run it out of. I don't remember what the cost was. I don't remember.
I know there's,
Can't be more than
at
10 grand a
IML,
light.
I've talked to one of the vendors. and they-
How many lights would it take, John?
How many lights?
I think it was about that, just to install each light, because you gotta pour the reinforced concrete down into the tube in the ground and
The electrical.
But then we
Yeah.
have like Graceffa, we had some third-party contractor that was gonna do that.
I have no.
My guess
God,
is
that
it wouldn't be much cheaper than the sidewalks.
But by the time you make them to IDOT standards, it becomes very expensive.
It's just strings, you know.
Can we
string-
carve the poles?
The LED ones in between. the
We just
trees.
need to be like IDOT and not have to follow their rules.
Yes, they make their own rules.
And then they violate them.
That's why you get to make your own.
Exactly.
Burgundy, do you want to
Darn it.
talk about the backhoe? Yes, I surely would.
Who Shirley?
My aunt Shirley.
I had an Aunt Shirley.
I have an Aunt Shirley too.
I'm not sure if Rick has the quotes.
He does.
Everybody remembers a while back when we talked about the backhoe needing to be replaced. I believe it is in '06. We bought it. Someone got to tell me this, like we bought it 2 years.
I don't
one
have my
way
thing.
to use machine when they purchased it.
Yep.
So
Is that
it
it?
is in desperate need. of replacement. It is nickel and diamond, it's falling apart, it's rusting, it's served its time, it's done real well, but it is time to upgrade. So anyway, we got a quote from, for a deer and a cat. Actually did really well on trade-in price, kind of surprised us. So cat came in, I think that cat was the cheapest at, like, I think it was 98,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so deer was like 105. So actually, both of them are great prices. I mean, actually, really, really good prices. I thought it would be much more than that. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know, like I said, we're talking budget, so,
This is for next fiscal year, correct?
that's up to you guys, but yes.
Which is the better machine?
Honestly, from what we have, they're both Cadillacs. So, I mean, we're absolutely happy with the Cat.
What do you,
That was kind of so it was a little different when we looked at these. The Deer we actually spec'd out, if you want to call it that. We actually went through and checked off what we wanted, so they would literally have to build the Deer for us. The Cat kind of comes with a lot of the options that we spec'd on the Deer already on the Cat. Honestly, I mean,
Don't they have that in their inventory too?
yeah, the Cat we could probably buy in a week or two. They actually had one sitting up at Cat.
That makes sense.
It's kind of their stamped out machine, but it has a lot of the options that we actually expect on the Deer, which is surprising.
And we want to replace the old one because it's getting to a point that
Yes,
it's unfeasible to fix.
Yes, we're, it's time, it's getting to the point now where we're kind of, we're getting a little nervous trusting it. It's getting, so, and honestly, the trade-in value, the price on the trade-ins was shocked me.
Well,
I did not see that coming.
$100,000 machine, they just,
So, anyway,
When do you anticipate requesting the purchase?
Well, like I said, I mean, we don't have equipment money. I mean, we're still waiting on a dump truck, so, we don't have anything in the budget for this, so I'm assuming we would have to wait. There is the option, I guess they do it with a lot of municipalities, we could purchase and pay after budget. I guess that's done quite often according to the salesman.
I only ask because, I won't dispute the fact that we need it. I've witnessed many over the years of sinkholes, we do our repairs, but I don't know if we have enough use for one brand new. And I'm wondering what the price of a gently used piece of equipment is.
That's your problem with combination hose, is finding a gently used one.
most of them are banged up when you go to construction. They bang them and slam them. It's,
That's just a picture, that's a picture of the Deer.
We're in the luxury position of not desperately needing one. We need a future in the 90 days. I don't believe.
I mean, we could get a used one, but when it comes from construction, you know, we're looking at damaged cylinders that are bent, then we're gonna start replacing that, hoses. It's,
You just told me that the piece of equipment we have is an 06 that we bought in 08. Yes. That's a 2 years. How much damage we done in 2 years? I'm not gonna say that damage can be done, but.
well,
and it
damage
does
can be
the work,
done.
So it's out there.
I
There's
mean,
options available.
13.
Just look. I just need to know the price of a used.
I think it'd be better to be brand new.
To blow $100,000.
Sorry, how long did it last us?
Can you?
13 years.
13.
Chris,
Yeah, sorry.
thank you.
It lasted us 13 years, which is pretty good. So a new one should last us 20, huh?
I thought we got it in that.
It says the vehicle list, I had Brenda pull it up for me. We bought it in 06 and I'm sorry, it was built in 06 and we did buy it in 08.
I also look at warranty too, as well.
Mhm.
So, like I said, yeah, we absolutely could, entertain limited prices on used ones. I will tell you from experience, many years of running them, yes, a combination hose is one of those machines that gets abused quite a bit. So, you can do a DuPont overhaul on them, they can look real pretty to sell them. So you got to be very, very careful with those machines.
I'm
And I can tell you that from
I'm assuming William's coming at it from a financial aspect. So is this something we can discuss again in 2 weeks after the supervisors have hopefully got the rough thing together for you to
I'll
look at?
listen in 2 weeks, but I won't be here. I'll be working.
That's fine. Well, you'll see the draft of our budget before then, hopefully anyway.
But let's,
No.
before we go to that, and I'm fine with that, but let's, poll the trustees and see if new or used is, people think that we should look into a used one or if they would prefer to buy new. Personally, I prefer to
I
buy,
don't think we bother to poll until you know the price.
Well,
we do know the price. It's
You
98,000.
don't know the price of you.
Well, it'd be less than 98,000, right?
So just so I know, so as I'm looking down the road, if I find a
used one for $78,000 that's 2 years old. Because I don't believe we're gonna find it at 98,000, I don't believe you're gonna find a 3-year-old machine for $40,000. We have a 2006, they're offering us 24,000 for. So, there is a market for them, so I don't think you're gonna see like a crazy price drop, but what am I mean?
I would not be doing my due diligence as a fiduciary responsibility trustee of this village if I did not ask you to look up these prices.
No, I understand that, but,
What,
where am I
what,
going with the used
Yeah,
prices?
you're
I mean,
asking
because
what,
if I'm
what,
looking at
like
something-
range or what, like,
Yeah, there you go.
you're asking, is it,
Yes.
so like, if you're
Right.
talking about a used one, are you talking about something that, are you looking for 50? Are you looking for 78? Is that what you're asking?
Exactly.
Well, then you gotta
I would
find,
be just as skeptical if you came to me and said, I got a $48,000 backhoe, it's only 2 years old. I'd be just as
But-
skeptical as you would be.
the other,
But what about?
He's looking for a range.
the
That's
big,
what I'm looking for, so I'm not.
I guess one of the things you gotta look at too is not just 3 years old, but how many hours are on the thing.
Yes.
And how good shape it is. And
what type of warranty do you usually get with those?
This has, hold on a second, because I'm looking at 2 of them here.
I think one,
420
The
XE.
deer, for example.
36 month, 3,000.
Yeah.
3,000 hours.
Is the 430 cat bigger than the 420?
It should be a 420.
it's
No,
a
is the
420.
430 bigger?
I'm assuming it is, yes.
Because they have the used 430 F2. It doesn't list the hours, but it's 99.5.
So absolutely, William, no problem, but just so I'm not chasing my tail here and looking at, you know.
It's listed at 99.5, now account for our trade.
You're assuming you're. in-
But your trade-in price probably changes when you're buying something used.
Then they're scamming the numbers.
Well, we know that. Everybody's,
Smaller.
what do you think a car?
Similar to buying a new car.
Well,
Yeah, same
I'm
thing.
at one site, so I mean, and if it is a bigger machine, it literally has more capabilities, and obviously it's gonna be a more expensive.
sure.
machine.
But you're
So
not gonna
you
say-
gotta try and find something that's gonna be apples and apples.
But if you're actually trying to get something that's a few years old, you're not gonna have significant savings.
Because 20 grand's not a lot to save. When
You're
you
more
have a
looking-
couple
I mean-
problems, you're gonna be out a good share of what you said.
Well, I just don't think you're gonna have
Here-
significant.
here's
savings.
another 18, so because the other last one was an 18 for 99, here's an 18 430F for 67. So
That's probably.
what more likely is one has twice as many hours on it, the other one
Yeah.
does.
The beautiful part is I've got 2 salesmen, I can call and say, okay, this is what we're looking for.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
can do the-
Put them
they
to-
do a
put
lot
them
of
to work,
work,
yeah.
so
Put them to work.
That's a great thing. But I need to he's the first thing he's gonna ask me
Is like what
do you
range?
want to spend?
Yeah.
So, I guess I kind of gotta have a little bit of a plan here. I mean, I can start like I say, see what's out there.
I spend at the candy store?
Yeah.
I don't give my dollar amount.
What do we want to spend? Are we gonna
I
get,
guess
I say
Just
by-
bring some crazy numbers.
you know, what we want to spend? Are we still gonna get the same value for the trade-in?
yeah.
Depends on what you're
Exactly.
spending. You're, I
Because
mean,
usually if you want to buy something used and you want to trade something in, they're not gonna give you the value of what you want.
Here's,
I'll talk.
let's look at this 566 hours on a machine. It's an 18. It's a 420F, same model. It's, now again, this is a list price, 63.
well, 30 grand.
That's, 35 grand.
Yeah, I mean, that's a significant savings.
So again, 566 hours, that's not terrible.
Depends how those hours were used, but.
You don't know how much they were
Yes,
used.
I mean, that's.
but
We
true.
gotta look at it before we buy a used machine.
So I mean, it is out there for savings.
I can get a hold of the 2 salesmen and put them on the search for something around.
I mean, that's less than 200 hours a year. That's
Yeah.
5 weeks a year that thing's worked.
I think age and hours are more important.
I
than
think so,
price.
too.
So if you say, hey, can I get a price on one of
Anything-
these that's only 2 or 3 years old?
Not older than a 2018.
Yeah, it has
Yeah,
minimal
That's
amount of
what I would,
hours.
Right.
as opposed to,
Yeah.
that's what I would do. as
Definitely.
opposed to-
Try and find the lowest hour machine you can within a few years old and see what the prices come up.
The Go money, they're gonna like, then you're gonna find a piece of crap with 1 million hours.
have no
or
idea.
Whatever, so like,
I don't even know where this
No
one's
one's gonna
at.
say lease, are they?
Most likely not.
Well,
That's what-
Probably worth 25.
Probably in Kansas.
Give 'em,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
hours. Yeah.
that's exact, yeah. Yeah.
Used backhoes, earth moving in
Is that
Jonesboro,
it, Chris?
Arkansas.
The only other thing that I have is to say that the bid for North Junction Road should be on March 1st. Is that correct? Right?
Yes.
Here. What time was that again?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. There you go. That's it for me. Thanks.
Lease it.
Moving on. We've had really good discussions tonight on these different committees. Dina?
I don't think I have anything to discuss.
Oh, come on, come up with something.
Yeah, I'd love to add to the party, but I can't. tonight.
Anything on
Thank you
the
very
other
much.
item on unfinished business?
What's on there, Rick?
Public?
The public.
Nothing,
Glenda,
nothing.
What?
Glenda,
Glenda.
She said nothing.
Nothing.
Glenda.
Anything further from board members? Employees, officers?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Jared makes a motion to adjourn. Chris seconds. Roll call, please.
Jared,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Jen.
Yes.
What time is it?
We're adjourned at 8:12.